Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and today we bring you an encore presentation of one of our very favorite episodes. Our team is working behind the scenes right now to bring you more amazing stories when our live programming returns in February. If there is an urgent update from the health system, of course, we'll be right here and let you know first. Until then, please enjoy this encore presentation and make it a great day.
Who is that funny-looking guy on those pictures? Oh, wait a minute, it's me. I'm Dr. Steve Stites, Chief Medical Officer here at the University of Kansas Health System and Executive Vice Chancellor at the University of Kansas Medical Center, and this is Open Mics with Dr. Stites. Most of us think of aging as a slow and steady process. You get a little stiffer, thanks for that, guys, a little grayer, and you maybe need some stronger glasses. But what if that's not the full picture? What if your body actually ages in bursts, with sudden shifts in how your cells function, how your body processes food, and even how your immune system responds? A recent study from researchers at Stanford says that's exactly what happened. Their research identified two key windows of time, around the ages of 44 and at 60, when major biological changes take place. Today, we're asking what changes in those windows there are and getting advice for taking care of ourselves through midlife, well, yes, and into your 60s, which I guess is beyond. Joining me today are two geriatric medicine specialists here at the University of Kansas Health System. Dr. Bruce Troen is the director of the Landon Center on Aging, and Dr. Jessica Callender-Rich is our medical director of the post-acute continuum of care. That's a lot of words. Working with nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities, and working here at the hospital and those facilities and in communities of senior citizens. Dr. Heather Wilkins is a neuroscientist and assistant director of the KU Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, Mitochondrial Genomics, Metabolism, and Biomarker Core. She's going to explain what that means in just a moment. Before we jump into this discussion, we sent our camera out and about, asking people how old they feel and what changes they've noticed as they age.
I feel like I'm 65. I don't really feel 73.
I am 69 years old, but I feel like I'm in my mid-50s. I took a test the other day about your heart health, and my heart health is around 54.
I'm 59 years old, and I actually feel about 30, 35. Feel pretty good.
I'm 72, but I actually feel like I'm probably 45 to 55.
So I retired right before I turned 65, and I started kind of turning things around. I drink a lot less alcohol, and instead of occasionally doing some exercise, I do an hour of exercise every single day. I lift weights 3 times a week, I run 3 times a week, and I do walks, power walks otherwise. So that's really made a difference.
One of the things I do pretty much my whole adult life is to bike, and I usually get out 2 or 3 times a week and do a 10-mile circuit each time. I
walk up here, I come up here to walk, and every now and then I'll try to run a little bit, and I have realized here lately that I can't actually run anymore. So I've noticed that. My knees don't hurt or anything, it's more, it affects, the impact I think affects my back more.
When I actually kind of started feeling slowing down was about 50, because I couldn't eat what I was eating and keep the weight off once I hit about 50.
I adopted the Mediterranean diet, and I really like it. I really love beans, and I love the fresh vegetables that are out right now. I make a lot of pasta sauces from tomatoes and avocados.
I still drink red wine and enjoy it. Maybe I drink too much every once in a while, but I don't really care, you know, and that's my one bad habit. So, and if you don't have at least one bad habit, I don't think, then just go in the house and shut the door and pretend like nothing's going on.
Your biological age might not match your chronological age, or you may drink too much red wine and have some fun, and you don't want to be shutting the door. I guess there's something to that. All right, from your perspective, what does it mean to age in bursts instead of at a steady pace, and kind of correlate what we just heard from our folks who were interviewed there? Dr. Troen, what are your thoughts?
Well, this article that you've brought to our attention, Steve, is really fascinating. It's really heralding a new era of investigating and hopefully predicting how we age. It's not the first, though. This has been going on for about 5 to 10 years. And what's interesting is they have many, many measurements. I know Dr. Wilkins will tell us more about those, but I'm not sure all those measurements really are directly related to how people feel or how they function. Because most people don't think that all of a sudden they've stopped being able to do something just over the past year or two. So while biochemically and molecularly we might have these changes, it's not quite clear yet what that means for us as we move forward in our functional capacity.
What are your thoughts, Dr. Rich? You must.
So I'm around this age 44.
Well, I'm past 44. I'm going to
around
identify
it.
with that part, and I'm past 60. So
And I'm just going to say that in the last year, I've started hearing my friends say things like, oh, my knee hurts when it's going to rain.
Yeah,
And
it's true,
sort
too.
of feeling some of these things. And so while I think we've always just told ourselves this is, a continuum, gosh, I kind of
not.
wonder,
Yeah, there's cliffs.
is this, are these the cliffs? Is this the time? And then I'm going to have a break from hearing my friends complain for a bit. And then we'll go back to it, I guess, in about 15 years.
Okay, well, let me tell you, once you go past both those markers, you do notice. I have to say, there is something about these changes that happen in your body, and it's like, I'm doing just great. I'm cruising along. I am not going to age like everybody else. So, all of a sudden, I have aged like everybody else. It's like, what happened here? So now the research found these two biological shifts, major shifts, again, at age 44 and age 60. Dr. Troy, walk us through what kind of changes happen to the body in those times.
Well, this particular study, they took billions of measurements. They measured blood, urine, stool. They had an actigraph on people. They had them fill out questionnaires. And they followed people for an average of about 2 years. So this is not where they took somebody who was 40 and took them all the way till they were 65 or 70. But over those short period of times, these biological, biochemical measurements, they changed in individuals, and they thought that there were clear peaks at these different ages. What I'm concerned about is, were there enough people involved? There were about 108 people. There are other studies that look at thousands of people, and I'm not sure, we should be cautious about extrapolating from 108 people. The other comment I would make here is that sometimes things happen to us, we're not aware of them because our resilience is not as great as it used to be. So I suspect that when Dr. Calendar Rich,
cliff, isn't it?
yes,
Resilience is another cliff.
right. If Dr. Calendar Rich's knee is hurting, maybe something happened and her resilience is less, but I'm not sure she's all of a sudden aged just in that last month.
It's my friend.
Oh, sorry, not you, not your knee.
All right, well, this study used a newer approach to analyzing data called multi-omics. Did I say that right, team? Is that pretty good? Okay. Dr. Wilkins, a lot of people may know about the term genomics, kind of genetics and your gene, looking at the genome, but what is multi-omics?
Yeah, so as Dr. Trone stated, this study took approximately 250 billion individual data points. And they did that from about 135,000 different biological tests. That is a massive amount of data from 108 individuals. And so they used all of that data to try to tell us what's happening, a holistic view of those molecular pathways. I think about it as, we're trying to see something you can't see with the naked eye. You may not feel it, but we know that that pathway has changed, and it could tell us some information about resilience or what to expect, or maybe even predict something that could happen, physiologically that you're not feeling currently.
So one surprising finding was that even our ability to metabolize things like caffeine or alcohol changes sharply in our 40s and in our 60s. I'm going to tell you, this is really, 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 really true. If I drink a cup of coffee or any caffeine afternoon, in the middle of the night, I will always wake up. That never used to happen. And if I drink more than one glass of alcohol, I'm going to feel it the next day. That never used to happen. Something's clearly changed. So first, why does that happen? And what did happen?
Well, but did it happen suddenly? Because I think you're...
Yeah, over a pretty short period of time. Well, I was fascinated when I read this because I'm like, I identify, come on, you're as old as I am, maybe if you...
A little bit older, actually.
Yeah. So
okay.
Did you kind of identify with this?
Well, yes, to a degree.
I wanted to identify with being a quarterback, but that never happened. But this happened.
Yes, well, it's interesting. In all those interviews, no one said that they felt like 83 when they only were 63, right?
That's fair.
So everybody wants to feel, they feel younger than they really were. And I think that's partly, now this is not necessarily science, this is about what our images of ourselves, which is formulated through our 20s and 30s and 40s. And we hang on to that.
Yeah, I don't know how to be in photographs anymore.
There you go. so. So obviously things change. The question in my mind is, are these truly abrupt changes, or are we getting a snapshot of changes that are more progressive? And this particular study doesn't give me high confidence that they're actually looking over a long period of time, but they've got a lot of snapshots of these individuals over short periods of time. I'd like to see something that happens over decades as opposed to 2 or 3 years.
Okay, I'm just going to throw one thing out at you guys that also changes as we get older, and I wonder if it's not correlated with the whole story. You know, your sleep pattern changes a ton too. And I think sleep, you know, my lung doctor does a little bit of sleep medicine. I think sleep makes all the darn difference in our lives. And we don't sleep as well as we get older. I think there's a cliff in sleep. I don't know, do they talk about a cliff in sleep?
Well, so they're doing questionnaires. They didn't really highlight this, but I agree with you. We're actually doing some studies at the VA on cognition and sleep and the changes as we get older. And there's a lot of, there's increasing evidence now that subtle changes in sleep lead to subtle changes in cognition. We're not talking about dementia here, but our processing as we get older. We all want to get a better night's sleep.
Yes,
again,
and it's harder to do.
Sometimes a lot of illnesses can make that worse in a sudden way. So it's hard to tease apart some of the illnesses that many of us encounter as we get older, as opposed to normal aging.
You should need billions of data points. Like
that's right, you need billions of data points.
Okay, now there's a certain diet that has generated headlines. I think one of the folks we interviewed there kind of talked about a little bit around it. And those headlines have claimed it can slow down or even reverse biological aging. I'm not so sure about the reversing. Maybe it makes you healthier, and that feels like reversal. But the methylation diet focuses on nutrient-rich whole foods, especially ones with a lot of B12, folate, choline, and other compounds that impact DNA methylation. Okay, that was a mouthful. Y'all are going to be explaining that in a minute. We asked a medical nutrition researcher to help explain methylation, a process in your body where one molecule donates a methyl group to another molecule, like your DNA. Okay.
Methylation not only turns our genes on and off, but it has far-reaching impacts for, say, neurotransmitter synthesis, for embryonic development, for cardiovascular health. So what we eat literally changes our DNA and how our body functions and feels. We're looking to get nutrient-dense whole real foods into the diet. So things like dark greens, colorful vegetables, berries, nuts and seeds, proteins, eggs, real foods. And it steers us away from those ultra-processed foods that have a lot of chemicals and added sugars and refined carbohydrates, things that cause oxidative stress. Food is not just fuel. I mean, we've thought about food as fuel for a very long time, but food is information. And that is a powerful statement. What we eat, what we drink, every bite, every sip informs our body of our surroundings, of our environment. So we're literally turning our genes on and off. We are impacting the way the structure and function of our cells. We are eating our information and directly influencing our quality of life, not just today, not just tomorrow, but 20 years down the road. We can't stop aging. The train is on the track, but we can certainly slow it down, and we can make the ride a bit more enjoyable through what we eat.
Dr. Keller said food is not just fuel, food is information, and it can affect our aging. I thought that was really fascinating. What are some smart diet changes that people should be considering as they age? And team, help us understand how food is information. The study also raises the question of how much of these changes are purely biological and how much can be explained by lifestyle choices. Okay, guys, food is information. Let's talk about it. Who's going to go first? Dr. Wilkins, I'm picking on you.
Yeah, so eat a balanced diet. You're not going to want to eat heavily processed foods. You want to eat a mix of carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And we do a lot of studies on things like the Mediterranean diet because we know it's good for your brain. It's good for your cardiovascular system, your heart, and your liver, and maintaining a healthy diet that's balanced is really important. I think it's really difficult to, say cut out all carbs or cut out all of fat. I think we have to have that balance. Our body needs different kinds of information or fuel to be able to function.
Jessica, you still see a lot of patients Do you talk about this very much?
Yeah, actually, we do. So I first want to highlight that video at the beginning showed these like amazing people that were all feeling younger than they were. And I'll point out they were all at the park.
Yeah,
right?
I like it.
And so they were being active, they were talking about how they had changed their diets, and they were really looking at like this whole picture, right? And so as we think about aging, yes, I think diet is a lot of it. I think the foods we eat from the time that we're, you know, young and in our teenage years and in our 30s and all of the time really can impact that. And so can the other things that we do to maintain our health. And so if we put it all together, yeah, we're talking to our patients about it, but we're talking to them about it at every stage of the game. I mean, I was at my kid's pediatrician appointment this week, and they were talking about that too. So this is really a whole lifestyle approach that has to start at the beginning, which doesn't mean you can't make changes now. Right? That doesn't mean that you can't make changes now that will positively impact how you age and how you move into the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I was listening to a report I was driving on NPR around a major medical Make America Healthy report that came out yesterday saying, look, all this did was say ultra-processed foods are bad for you, and there is in fact this huge problem of obesity and diabetes in young people that we had never seen before. But it did nothing to change our dietary habits. They didn't want to do any warning labels. They didn't want to tell people how bad it was. They just wanted to say it in this paper, and then I guess they're done with it. I don't know, kind of a whitewash, I think.
Yeah, there are studies in other countries where if they give you information, it actually can make a difference.
Yeah.
But that information needs to be integrated, as Dr. Calendar-Rich said, in overall lifestyle changes. Now, I'm going to add maybe a somewhat of a negative note here. Oftentimes, the ability to make these lifestyle changes depends upon your socioeconomic status. Okay, and so not everybody is as privileged to be able to make these choices. They look like there's some very healthy retirees in those clips, but there's some patients we see who are very much challenged economically, socially, without social support settings too. We now know increasingly that people can age better if they can maintain social contacts. So we could talk about all the biological measurements in the world, but if you don't have the right social support system, then you're probably going to age faster.
Yeah,
which includes those food deserts, right? You know, we're seeing, so we talk about the foods that were listed, you know, in this methylation diet, which are similar to Mediterranean diet and similar to a lot of these other diets. But as we see, relative often to socioeconomic opportunities, the ability to get a hold of those food, and also, by the way, the ability to get out of your house to go to the store that has the good produce, right, is really limited by lots of different factors. And so in reality, we can make a lot of recommendations, and to your point, we do, right? We're making recommendations all the time. But if we don't have a system in our society that helps people sort of be propped up to follow those recommendations, then there's really we're not giving them the best opportunity to move forward and do those things.
Now it is possible, if I could add though, that so Dr. Snyder is a senior author. I had a chance to listen to one of his virtual lectures. He wants to try to change how we approach healthcare. He wants to try to give us the information so that individually we can tailor our approaches to healthcare. So yes, I think we're going to have lots of information, but as Dr. Calendar-Rich was emphasizing, unless we put it within an environment, a supportive structure, it's going to be very hard to make these changes.
Yeah, we have to make sure if our food choices and our grocery stores and our food delivery, etc., were geared to health and not to profit, we probably would be healthier. But we'd have to make it affordable to people, to your point. You have to be able to shop around the circle of the grocery store, not in the center. All right, now some of this research touches on the idea that different systems, like your heart, liver, immune system, can age at different rates. For the physicians, have you seen that in your patients? I'm just going to tell you, I've seen this in my patients. Some people clearly have aged faster in one area or another. Thoughts?
I mean, I see it. What is hard is, for me anyway, it's not always easy to predict. Right? It's not always easy to know which of those systems is going to age faster. Certainly if you have cardiovascular risk, you're going to see more in that realm. But I will say we're sometimes really surprised at which things seem to age faster or change faster or cause problems earlier. Even things we didn't expect will sometimes crop up.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. We'll see sometimes people who unfortunately are cognitively impaired, but physically are very vigorous, or conversely, people who are very sharp mentally and yet don't have the kind of physical capabilities that we want. And here's where it speaks to, maybe if I can help to toss the ball back to Dr. Wilkins, with all these different measurements in different systems, that might help us.
Yeah, so I think that's what I felt the points of this study is we're trying to understand what measures can we use to predict these outcomes, to predict what's happening at the system level, at the cellular level. And if we can predict that, maybe we can design a therapy that could slow down aging or increase resilience in aging.
Or do it in the component parts that are necessary, because I guess what they're trying to tease apart is what happens metabolically, what happens with your immune system. And you're right, it doesn't all happen at the same time.
All right, we know many of you have questions. Let's head to Studio B with Alexis. Alexis Del Cid, what's going on?
Good morning. We have a question from Jean, and I want to combine it with a question from Yen Liang. Jean wants to know what's the next cliff after 60, and Yen Liang would like to know if exercise could help us avoid it.
Yeah, it may not be a cliff. It may just be a crash landing. I don't know. So what's the next one?
Yeah, I was going to say exercise, definitely. Be as active as you can. That is going to help you avoid those cliffs.
Yeah, there was a study done by the centenarian study from Albert Einstein School of Medicine where they looked at 2,400 people and they looked at 3,000 different proteins, and they found there were changes, waves of changes, if I look here, in the 4th, 7th, and 8th decades. It's likely that throughout life we have, I'm not going to call it a cliff, but transitional points.
Wavelets, here we go.
There you go,
wavelets.
And so what can we do? Just as Dr. Wilkins just said, we try to approach it in the best possible way, holistically, supportively, and exercise. There's nothing like exercise. If we could put it into a pill, everybody would take it. It's not so easy, unfortunately.
You actually have to work at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying, I know.
That's how you guys are doing that research. But, if we just do the things we know, if you think about evolutionarily, what kind of food did we eat? Well, we didn't eat ultra-processed foods, right? If you think about it, we had to exercise a lot. We had to go find food. And I did my morning bike ride, hit intervals and hills this morning. It was awesome. I worked hard. I wasn't finding food, but I was doing that exercise. I do it all the time. It's the only way I can stay sane. And I know I function much better. I'm a much nicer person. And now I know I'm not aging as fast. It's awesome.
Angie has a question. Angie wants to know, if I'm in one of these aging windows, should I be seeking out any specific tests?
Dr. Wilkins?
I would say no. I think you just need to make sure that you're following up with your primary care and specialist physicians, making sure that you're taking care of your health overall, whether you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, anything like that, cardiovascular risk and disease. Make sure that you are taking those medications, keeping up with those yearly labs, and keeping everything like that under control.
Dr. Gondrich, is this what you say to your patients? Because I know you see a lot.
Yes.
I mean, right, it's all about how can we live our best lives, right? So that includes how we eat and how we function and how we exercise and how we sleep, right? And those things all go together, right? We know that if you exercise, you're more likely to sleep better. We know that you're more likely to have mental health improvement consistently. We know that you are eating, the way in which we eat also impacts those things. The times that we eat, even like the caffeine intake, all of those things really come together. So it's not that there are necessarily, I think we all feel like there are these wavelets, but I don't know that I don't know that actually in physical function those things necessarily exist in the same way that we think about. I will say, as I look at these ages of mid 40s and 60, I think there are a lot of life changes that happen at those times for a lot of people.
Very good, yeah.
And maybe that could impact how people are living their lives, right? Maybe as they're getting nearer to retirement. Or I see a lot of people in this 40 to 60 range that are what I call what a lot of people call the sandwich generation, right? Where they're caring for parents or older adults around them, and they're caring for young people, and so they're really stretched thin, and now they can't find the time to do a lot of these things. And so I think there's a lot of confounding factors to a lot of this, but yes, we are, like, this is exactly what we're telling our patients. It's like, do the things the best you can.
Can I put a plug in? So you mentioned very briefly HIIT. High intensity interval training.
I did?
Absolutely. I do that also on a regular basis. When you have very vigorous exercise for short periods of time, and then you sort of pull it down a notch or two, and then go back up.
Yep.
We're actually doing some studies in that, both at the VA, and I want to put in an ad, if I may, an advertisement at the Landon Center on Aging. We have something called the Greyhawk Registry and the Greyhawk Resilience Laboratory. Dr. Ken Saldine is the director of that, and we're looking to enroll many, many people as we can track them as they age, and maybe enroll them in other studies with high-intensity interval training, but to see how we can learn from them, and then they can hopefully implement some of the things that we learn to age more successfully and healthier.
I love it. All right. Alexis.
Jeremy has a really interesting question. Jeremy has a question about medications and metabolism. He writes, does the slowing of the metabolism affect how quickly you metabolize medications as well? Because I feel like in the last year or two, medications I've taken just fine before are a lot more likely to linger in my system. And where I hadn't historically had much of the negative side effects, I can almost guarantee I'll feel those effects now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, when we talk about, there's two different kinds of metabolism, I will say. There's like exercise-based metabolism, and then there's the metabolism of medications that goes through different pathways with a lot of pharmacokinetics. But yes, as we age, both of those change. Not together, but they do both change, and we know that the ways in which our body is affected by different chemicals and different medications absolutely changes as we age.
And can we just also add the other things, other medicines you take, or how much you drink, or other things you're having in your diet really affect that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Question from Jill. Jill wants to know, how long do these bursts of aging last?
Well, I don't know. I want to have the burst of stability is what I'm talking about.
Well, you know what? I guess you could say if they last for an entire lifetime, then you're doing the right thing. I mean, it's better than the alternative.
Yes.
We just don't have that information yet. This is really on the cusp of, again, a new era in trying to understand at the molecular level what's going on. But I think as we're all emphasizing, it's not just about our molecules, it's about our functional capabilities, it's about our social interactions, it's about our lifestyle choices. So while this is interesting, it doesn't mean we should make a drastic shift in what we're doing right now.
Okay. Unless it's to work out and eat right.
Yes, yeah. Go ahead and go for it.
Just saying.
And we have one more question from Marcia. Marcia wants to know if any of the experts on the panel have any recommended online resources where we can get all this great information.
Oh man, okay.
Wow.
What you say? What are you, Dr. Wilkins?
Well, the Landon Center on Aging has a really great website, as well as the KU Alzheimer's Disease Center. So those are really great resources for aging and brain health. I'm not sure about other systems.
It's a great question. I think there are a ton. If you go out there and you just search, you know, like aging or aging prevention or healthy aging, I think you'll find a zillion resources that will all say slightly different things that will all boil down to the same things. And those are the same things that we've really been discussing.
Well, but a cautionary note, there's so much information out there that it's important to try to recognize when the information is hopefully backed by evidence. As Dr. Hawk was saying, we want to have an evidence basis, and I think unfortunately we're sort of awash with tidbits, and not just tidbits, but a tsunami of information that might push us in the wrong direction. So yes, as Dr. Wilkins said, we have some websites here at KU. There are some websites also, MedPage Today, which is relatively reliable, but I would stay away from using Facebook or other sources
Social
as the
media
primary.
probably is
Yes.
not the way to go.
Yes, thank you.
Looking up information and references on the Mediterranean diet and exercise, that makes sense to me. And I think a lot of, Mayo Clinic has some great things on their website, and others do too. We do, you guys pointed out. But, the other thing that really helps is common sense. The more real foods you eat as opposed to foods that have been processed and put together for you, the better off you are. And I think also exercise makes a huge difference. Okay, this has been a great discussion. And I am grateful for our guests for being here. I want to hear some final thoughts before we go so that we can all live long and prosper. Dr. Wilkins.
Yeah, just approach life from a holistic point of view. Try to do what you can to have a healthy diet, exercise, stay social, sleep hygiene, sleeping well, just taking care of your mind and your body.
All right, awesome. Dr. Calendar Rich.
Yeah, so I've said this on the show before, and I think it holds true always, but particularly for this conversation, and that's really that movement is medicine. Mm-hmm. The more we move, the better off we are, and the better opportunity we have for more longevity and better quality of life, which is really what it's about.
I love that. Movement is medicine, and food is information.
There you go.
I love that. Dr. Trowan.
Well, that really sums it up. And so many of our changes with aging are through physical disabilities, and those aren't always avoidable. But if we can get the social support mechanisms, we feel better, we can have a better health span. It's not just about the years in our life, it's about the life in our years. And that means not just common sense, but I would say pay attention to your physicians who have an evidence basis for the recommendations they make.
I often talk in this program about faith, hope, and science. That faith part can mean a lot of different things, but I think we had an interesting discussion about the middle of our show where we talked about the importance of food deserts, and what kind of food you have access to. I think if we want to have a truthful, honest discussion, that does have to be part of our discussion, because the science would drive us to make sure that if we're going to take care of each other, we're going to have to make sure we have access to good food so our bodies can get good information from our food, and that we continue to support each other in ways that make a difference. And we know how to do that, and it starts by telling the truth and being honest about what we do know and what we don't know. And then hopefully for our audience out there, being able to listen to people like you all who come on and tell the truth, but also trying to discount a little bit some of that stuff out there on social media when people have a lot to gain from what they're seeing, or they politicize the information. It's harder then to call it science. And that's why together with faith, hope, and science, we can live long and prosper. We'll see you all next week.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and Open Mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now everywhere podcasts are available.